It begins in the space between waking and sleep, that fragile edge where your breath slows and the world loses its grip on you. In that place, you have been before, not in this life perhaps, but somewhere your mind has refused to forget. You were not just skin and bone, you were a spark wrapped in memory, carrying fragments of a language you can't speak anymore, but can still feel in your chest. Tell me, why does your pulse quicken when a certain wind brushes your neck? Why do your eyes blur when you stare too long at the stars? And why in dreams do you find yourself standing in places you've never seen, but somehow know exactly where to go? These are not accidents. They are remnants, pieces of a map that was hidden in you before you learned your first word. For centuries, ancient healers and dreamwalkers believed the body was more than a vessel. It was a living archive, storing visions and truths far older than our names. Some of those truths are buried deep, others lie just beneath the skin, waiting for the right touch to awaken them. And somewhere on the curve of your neck is a point whispered about in secret, a point that was never drawn on medical charts, never written in holy books, but always passed through quiet demonstration from one soul to another. Some called it the Silver Door, others the Moon Bridge. But they all agreed on one thing: it does not just lead to dreams, it leads to the dreams you were meant to remember. Because not all dreams fade. Some are taken, locked away behind a gate you forgot existed, a gate the body still knows. You have felt it, in that electric shiver that runs through you when you are half asleep and someone's voice seems to come from another world. In that strange warmth that lingers after a touch you cannot place. Your thoughts are not just yours, they are threads spun from every life that has touched you before, from voices that still echo through the marrow of your bones. And when this point is awakened, those voices grow louder. The sky behind your eyes opens, the shadows in your memory begin to take shape. This isn't folklore, this is not a trick. It is a key, and once you turn it, you cannot unsee what waits beyond. If your soul has started to stir, if something ancient inside you is waking up, follow this thread before it fades again. Subscribe to the Spine Gospel, not because you're curious. Subscribe because deep down you remember. The candlelight flickered, bending shadows across the walls of the mountain temple. The air was thick with incense, a slow spiral of smoke rising toward the rafters where ancient bells hung silent. A traveler knelt on a woven mat, head bowed, eyes closed. The old monk approached without a sound. His robes whispered like wind through dry leaves. He didn't speak. He simply placed 2 fingers at the base of the traveler's skull, right where the spine melts into the neck. The touch was feather-light, almost nothing at all, and yet the world seemed to sway. The sound of the room stretched into an echo. The floor felt like it had softened into water. Somewhere in the distance, a child's laughter. Or was it a memory? The traveler's breath caught as a strange, impossible feeling bloomed. This is not the first time someone has touched me here. It was as if the body remembered something the mind had long forgotten. For thousands of years, healers, mystics, and secret orders have spoken of a hidden point at the meeting of neck and skull, a gate, a hinge, a keyhole between the waking self and the dream self. In traditional Chinese medicine, it is known as Feng Fu, the wind mansion. Pressed or cooled, it was believed to summon clear visions, release nightmares, and open a path for the Shen, the spirit, to wander freely. In ancient Egypt, temple priests whispered of a place they called the Ka's Call, a spot where a gentle pressure could awaken the soul's double, the part of you that walks in the dream realm while your body sleeps. Initiates were taught to guard it, for this was not merely flesh and bone, it was the threshold. Even in Tibet, among the keepers of dream yoga, this place was mapped in their inner cartography as a junction where life force enters the head, a point they believed could open the sky road for travelers of the mind. Stranger still, Cultures that never touched the same seas shared this fixation. In Japan, the nape of the neck was considered the most alluring part of the body, not only for its beauty, but because it revealed one's life energy. In old Shinto poetry, lovers would speak of touching the place where the soul breathes. Shamans of the Siberian tundra believed a dream cord connected the sleeping self to the unseen world, passing through a narrow channel at the neck. To touch it was to stir the dreamer's other body. How did they all find the same place? How did they all agree that this point was a passage? Some say this knowledge was kept hidden for protection. Not every mind can survive what it sees when the gate is opened too quickly. The ancients warned of something they called dream poisoning, visions that do not belong to you, stolen memories slipped into your sleeping mind. There are stories, some whispered in monasteries, others buried in anthropology papers, of people who could implant dreams into another person or erase them entirely. These were not fairy tales. They were cautionary accounts meant to guard the unready from walking into a room they could never leave. And yet, in the last century, science brushed against the same doorway. Neuroscientists probing the vagus nerve and the brainstem found that gentle stimulation at the batin sea of the skull could alter perception, mood, and even the vividness of dreams. Without knowing it, they were pressing against the same ancient gate, though their language stripped away the mystery. What happens when this point is touched? The accounts are not consistent, perhaps because each person meets something different on the other side. Some speak of time slowing to the pace of breath. Others recall a sudden flood of images from childhood, dreams they swore were lost forever. A few say they heard voices speaking their name in a language that felt older than their own. It is not just a sensation, it is a recognition, as if the body has been carrying a key all its life, and in that moment, someone finally turned it. There is one story, a fragment passed from one dream seeker to another, about a woman who touched the point once and never dreamed the same way again. Her nights became vast maps, each dream a room she could walk into, doors opening into deeper and deeper corridors. She began to leave marks on the walls of these dream rooms, and when she woke, she would find the same marks scratched faintly into the wood of her bedroom. She swore she was not dreaming at all, but traveling. And if this is true, if this point on the neck can turn sleep into a journey, then the question is not how to find it, but why we were taught to forget it. The woman's story faded like mist, but it left behind a seed of unease and curiosity. If such a gate exists, what else has been hidden from us? What illusions were built to keep our fingers away from it? The answers, as unsettling as they may be, lie just beyond the veil. And the veil is thinner than you think. They say humanity is awake, but look closer, and you will see billions sleepwalking through life, their most powerful doorway sealed without their knowing. It is the tragedy of the great forgetting, a slow, deliberate erasure of something so intimate, so close to the skin, that we no longer even think to search for it. Imagine a vast library, row after row of shelves stacked high with the collected knowledge of human history. But one book is missing. Not just any book, the book that explains that this library is not the world, but a room inside a much larger reality. Without it, you can live and die within those walls, never realizing they are walls at all. That is what happened to the dream gate. This forgetting did not come from neglect. It was born of fear. Long before our current calendars, there walked people who knew how to travel while their bodies rested. They were called by many names: dream walkers, night travelers, spirit crossers. In the high deserts of the American Southwest, elders spoke of men who could step into the dreams of their enemies and scatter their courage before battle. In the shadowed courts of the ancient Middle East, mystics could send warnings across kingdoms without ink or paper, meeting in shared dream spaces that no god could patrol. These dream travelers were not entertainers. They were strategists, healers, prophets, and to the ruling classes they were dangerous. An army you could see could be stopped, But how do you fight someone who can pass through locked doors without touching them? And so, quietly, the teaching of the gate began to fade. Once, body maps, sacred diagrams, marked the neck point as a holy threshold, a channel between the personal and the infinite. But slowly, it was recast as something ordinary, mundane, a point to be rubbed for stiffness, a muscle knot, a piece of anatomy without mystery. The shift was clever: keep the body, erase the meaning. And where the old teaching spoke of the dream realm as a place to travel, the new systems rebranded dreams as something small, private, and purely psychological. No longer a portal, just the mind sorting its thoughts. The cultural storytellers, the priests, and later the scientists taught people to treat the dream world as harmless imagination. If you believe the door leads nowhere, you will never try to open it. Centuries later, when the world marched into the age of electric light, the final chains were forged. The dream gate does not open to those trapped in constant wakefulness, and so the waking world was made endless. Streets stayed bright long after the sun slept. Work bled into night. Entertainment filled every spare moment. Noise, from engines, from screens, from endless chatter, became the background hum of life. Sleep changed. It was no longer a sacred descent into the inner world, but a hurried pit stop between obligations. Our rhythms broke. We drifted further from the tide that once carried us naturally into the dream realm. And when people did dream, they dismissed it, or worse, had it explained to them by someone else. The medical language helped. Strange visions became sleep paralysis. Meetings in dreams became hallucinations. Ancient shared experiences were reframed as glitches, malfunctions, disorders. It is not that the gate stopped working, it is that we stopped noticing it was there. Whisper it, and it will sound like a conspiracy. Speak it plainly, and it feels too large to be true. An awakened dreamer is nearly impossible to control. A person who can step into the shared field of consciousness can speak without words, move without walking, see without eyes. No wall, no border, no guarded gate can keep them out. No propaganda can blind them, for they can meet truth itself in a realm untouched by power. And so the dreamers had to be broken, not physically, but at the root. Take their map, take their ritual, take their quiet, give them lights, noise, and waking distractions until they forget the sound of the inner call. Make the dream gate a myth, a superstition, or a curiosity for fringe seekers. Let them laugh at it. Let the scroll past it, because if they find it again, then the locks on the waking world will begin to break as well. And that is why the point on your neck is more than muscle and skin. It is the keyhole to a kingdom they told you doesn't exist. But the door has not vanished. It waits for the one who remembers where to touch and how to step through. We have been walking in the fog of this forgetting for centuries. But once the fog lifts, you cannot unsee the horizon. They say the human body is not merely flesh and bone, but an instrument, an ancient, finely crafted antenna tuned to receive messages from both the seen and the unseen. Some instruments are broken, others are forgotten, and some, like yours, are still waiting to be tuned. There is a point, just at the base of your skull where neck meets spine, that is more than anatomy. It is a crossroad. To the eye, it's a simple curve of bone, a ridge that has supported every breath you've taken since birth. But to those who came before us, this was no ordinary point. It was a lock, and also a key. If you close your eyes and imagine the body as a vast temple, this place is the threshold between the outer courtyard and the inner sanctum. Pressing here, with awareness, with precision, was believed to awaken the dream gate, the secret channel between waking life and the deeper currents of the soul. Civilizations separated by oceans and centuries still traced their fingers to this same spot. In Egypt, Priests spoke of the Ka passage, the bridge the soul must cross to enter the realm of the gods during sleep or death. Their temple carvings show initiates bowing their heads, the back of the neck exposed, as if offering it to invisible hands. In the Vedic traditions of India, yogis whispered of the Vishuddha chakra, the throat center, paired with the bindu, a point slightly above and behind the head. They believed this junction was where divine nectar dripped down into the body, fueling dreams, visions, and heightened states of consciousness. In ancient Chinese medicine, the heavenly pillar, acupoints, sat exactly where the skull's base meets the neck. Stimulating them was said to release the clouded spirit and open the mind to celestial influence. Different names, different myths, yet all pointing to the same hidden threshold. This was no accident. Modern anatomy gives it other names: the brain stem, the atlas bone, the cervical nerves. Here, the great vagus nerve flows down from the skull like a silver river, carrying messages between heart, lungs, and brain. This area also sits near pathways that influence the pineal gland, the tiny, light-sensing crystal within the brain that helps govern sleep cycles and dream states. Imagine this place as a harbor where three ships meet, one from the body, one from the mind, one from the soul. At this harbor, messages are exchanged, sometimes consciously, often without our awareness. When touched with the right intent, this junction seems to change the rhythm of these messages. Some describe it as a slowing of the inner chatter. Others say they feel a pulse, a gentle current, as if the body remembers something it had forgotten. The ancients didn't just know that this place mattered. They knew how to use it. Their rituals spoke of three keys to unlock the gate. Stillness. To quiet the waking mind is to open the ears of the soul. Breath slows, thought thins, and in that silence, the gate begins to shimmer. Alignment. Posture was sacred. The neck slightly inclined, the spine like a staff of light. When the body's axis was in harmony, energy could flow without obstruction. Frequency shift. The ancients used rhythmic breathing, heartbeat synchrony, or subtle chants to alter their state, not as meditation, but as a deliberate shift into a dream-ready vibration. These were not casual gestures, they were the password to a door most have forgotten exists. Today, instruments can measure brain waves, track REM sleep, and record changes in heart rate. They can detect the electricity of neurons, the chemistry of dreams, but they cannot measure the invisible field the ancients worked within. The dream gate is not bound by flesh alone. It extends into what mystics called the subtle body. To measure that, you'd need tools that operate beyond the physical spectrum. Perhaps those tools once existed. Perhaps they still do, locked away in places where curiosity is unwelcome. And so, knowing the mechanism is like finding the strings of a forgotten instrument. But to play it, to truly use the dream gate, you must know the blueprint left behind by those who built this instrument in the first place. A blueprint hidden not in books, but in symbols, in the blueprints of temples, in the silent geometry of ancient structures, waiting for someone to read them. Once you understand that the dream gate is not just a mystical idea, but a living mechanism within your own body, a new question naturally rises. Where is the original manual? For centuries, people have searched for this lost knowledge in books, scrolls, and manuscripts. But the ancients, they didn't trust fragile paper to guard their most sacred truths. They carved them into stone. They wove them into walls. They built entire cities as maps of the human body, knowing that long after their words turned to dust, their architecture would still speak. In Egypt, the layout of certain temples follows the proportions of the human spinal column. The outer courts mirror the base of the spine, the hypostyle halls correspond to the mid-back, and the Holy of Holies, the innermost chamber, aligns with the position of the head. It's as if the pilgrim walking through the temple is journeying through their own body, ascending vertebra by vertebra toward the hidden chamber where the dream gate rests. In the sacred science of Vastu Shastra in India, temples are designed so that the seeker walks a path that mirrors the inner rise of energy. From the imhus, a heavy grounding space of the entrance to the illuminated sanctum, symbolizing the crown. The corridors are not merely corridors, they are arteries. The domes are not merely domes, they are skulls sheltering the seat of consciousness. The same proportions that guide the growth of your bones are etched into the pillars of Luxor and the steps of Borobudur. The golden ratio, the Fibonacci spiral, these are not only mathematical wonders, they are the signature of life itself. The ancients knew that the body was a temple, and the temple was a body. Even in Angkor Wat, when viewed from above, the arrangement of its towers and courtyards mirrors the proportions of the human skeleton. The long causeways resemble the spine, while the central sanctuary stands like the brainstem, guarding the entryway to higher consciousness. When you look at ancient symbols with modern eyes, they seem abstract, but to the initiates, they were anatomical maps. The Egyptian Shen ring, a loop of rope tied into a knot, marks a sacred threshold, a place where two realities meet. That knot is the nape of the neck, the very place where ancient masters said the dream gate resides. The Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail, circles around a hidden center, the eternal loop of entry and return through this gate. And the mandala, radiating from its center, reflects the journey from the outer senses to the inner core of awareness. These blueprints weren't just about the human body. They were also about time. The ancients placed their temples to face specific stars or to align with the sun at precise moments of the year. The Temple of Karnak awakens with the first light of the solstice, its corridor acting like a sunbeam that enters the body. Angkor Wat is aligned with the constellation Draco, as if reminding us that the dream gate is not only within, but also above, that stepping through it is both an inner ascent and a cosmic journey. Priesthoods and mystery schools once acted as living libraries of this knowledge. Initiates would spend years learning how to read these stone maps, walking them again and again, until their own bodies became temples, until their own spines became corridors of light. But when empires fell, much of this knowledge was hidden. Some temples were buried, others were disguised. A few were left in plain sight, because the masters knew that without the right key, the map would appear meaningless. You now hold pieces of that key, but even the most perfect map is useless if you're not connected to the source it's meant to channel, and this connection is what allowed the ancients to step through the dream gate, not only in the deep hours of the night, but in the full brightness of waking life. Beneath all the stones, scrolls, and diagrams, there is something far older and far closer than any temple the ancients ever built. It is not carved from limestone, it does not crumble with time. It is the living temple of your own body. And at the very heart of that temple, at the slender bridge where your head meets your spine, lies a threshold the old mystics guarded in silence. They called it many names: the silver door, the bridge of breath, the whispering hinge, but all pointed to the same truth. Here is where the waking and the dreaming touch hands. If the Great Pyramids were maps, this place in your neck was the destination. If ancient pillars were keys, this was the lock they were meant to open. The architects of stone were only copying what nature had already placed inside you. Place your awareness there for a moment. Not on the skin, but beneath it, where the great river of the spine rises and meets the sea of the mind. This is the axis where messages pass, where visions descend, and where forgotten dreams wait like unopened letters. And like any true gate, it will not yield to force. It listens only for the right signal. That signal begins with the breath. Slow, deliberate, patient. Breath is the master key. As you breathe in, the river stirs. As you breathe out, the surface stills, and the reflection grows clearer. The ancients understood that with each cycle of breath, The mind's rhythm could be tuned, brain waves shifting like tides, until the dream gate stirs and opens. Some spoke of breathing in patterns, a measured count, a gentle pause, a release as soft as fog leaving the valley. Others hummed or chanted, letting the sound roll down into the bones of the neck until the air itself seemed to vibrate with light. The sound was never random, a sacred syllable, a hum pitched low, a name spoken not with the mouth but with the whole body. Each was chosen to awaken the gate's subtle pulse. Even now, without temples or scrolls, the body remembers these codes. Then comes the stillness. Not just the stillness of a quiet room, but the stillness where the senses turn inward, where sight is not through the eyes, but behind them, where hearing is not with the ears, but with the deep place that listens without sound. The monks in the mountains, the desert hermits, the forest shamans, all knew this silence. They entered it like divers into dark water, trusting the way down. And in that stillness, the gate breathes. If you were to seek it, truly seek it, you would prepare not by learning a technique, but by tending the inner soil. Wash the mind clean of noise, ground the body like a rooted tree. Let thought soften until it moves like clouds across a still sky. When you approach the gate with such patience, it will open, not with a blaze or light, but with the quiet certainty of a door you never realized was already ajar. And once it opens, you will see why the ancients built monuments, not to summon the divine, but to remind themselves that it had never left. The dream gate is not an object. It is a relationship. It will meet you as deeply as you are willing to meet yourself. Return to it often, not as a seeker of visions, but as a friend visiting an old and patient companion. Because every time you pass through it, you carry back something, a fragment of the forgotten, a spark from the other side, until one day the waking world itself begins to feel like part of the dream. This is where the outer map and the inner compass meet, and beyond this meeting point lies the last secret the ancients left behind. The silence is different now. It is not the same silence you knew before this journey began. It feels alive, like a distant drumbeat hidden in the fabric of your breath. You are no longer standing where you were when you first heard of the forgotten dream gate. Somewhere in between the words and the spaces, between the shadows and the light, something in you shifted. And though the road ahead may twist into fog, you carry a compass now, not in your pocket, but in the quiet place behind your heartbeat. The air feels lighter, as if dawn has stretched her fingers across the sky. You can almost hear the fading hum of the ancient door closing, not in rejection, but in a sacred promise. A promise that it will open again when you are ready. The gate was never simply a point on your neck. It was a key, and you were the lock. Every dream you touch from this moment forward will not be a random fragment of sleep, but a thread in a vast tapestry you were always meant to weave. The ancients knew this secret. They did not build monuments to keep the truth from you, but to lead you to yourself. The forgotten dream gate is not a place you travel to. It is a place you remember. And now, whether in the stillness before sleep or in the chaos of waking life, you can close your eyes and return. The map is etched in you. The key is your breath. The doorway is your own skin. So, when the world feels heavy, when your mind is a storm and your heart feels far from shore, touch that place again. Not just on your neck, but in your awareness. Feel how the body bows to the soul, and how the soul bends toward the mystery. Remember, you are not merely dreaming, you are being dreamt. And if this path has stirred something in you, a flicker, a whisper, a spark, then walk with us again. There are gates still hidden, doors that wait in the quiet, and truths that only open for those who listen. Here, with the Spine Gospel, we follow the echoes of forgotten worlds, and together we bring them into the light of our living days. If this journey touched something deep within you, imagine what lies ahead. The gates are always open.